So were you older when you first came out, or?
I did not come out until I got sober at the age of 23, which is when I started wrestling. I'm going to tell you this story briefly, and you're not really going to believe it, but it's true. I graduated college with a public relations degree. I minored in IT or something stupid. For the
Something sensible.
sensible, I built a computer, I learned Excel, and I had been working at moving companies since I was 16. Like every summer, it was moving companies, it was make your own money. My dad was like, I'm not paying for your booze, make your own money. And I was like, cool, fine. And I would work at these companies, and I graduated. I have no job. I've been playing in bands. There's no money in that. I'll go run a moving company. So I was offered a position to be an operations manager for this company. I was quickly moved to the GM. I'm living alone in Tallahassee, Florida. I have very much filled my expendable income. I can buy any drug I want in a college town. I can buy any booze I want in a college town. And I messed up and took like 8 hits of LSD and tripped so long that like I ended up in rehab and I was like, all right, I'm clean. Clearly I'm running
Or
from
like I just
something.
got uncomfortable thinking about eight.
Oh, it was to the point where like my job drug tested me after I came out and I'd sweated out so much and been so crazy that there was nothing in my system. And it's like, oh, I've been heavily smoking weed and doing all kinds of things. Nothing clicked because I've been drained. And from that point, I was like, well, okay, I'm 23. I have nothing really lined up besides work for this company. And I remembered meeting this guy at an NXT house show named White Trash Fred. His real name is Steve Hedrick, but his gimmick is White Trash Fred. And he helped me get my car started. And he signed an 8x10, and it's him, White Trash Fred, WTF, says, follow your dreams. And I remembered back to this, and I was like, I'm looking him up on Facebook. I have to just be a wrestler. I have nothing going on. I'm sober.
But
I
you
have to
love
see if it's
wrestling
real.
already. Like,
Oh, like my dad loved showing me wrestling growing up, but he never filled me in. It was always Crockett, NWA. He wasn't watching the WWF. He was a WCW guy. He was a Flair, Tully,
sure, sure.
Horseman guy, but
Yeah.
he would never fill me in on the work. And that's what kept me so intrigued because I had to go in and kind of figure it out for myself and go, where are these people even coming from? Is there a factory? Is there this? And I'm sort of going, you know what? Like, I need to do something. I was bowling a lot then, getting sober, and I'm just throwing the ball, like not trying to win, but just like, I'll throw something. And I went out and I was like, train me. And I would drive an hour and a half to his field with a ring in it. It's 100 degrees outside in Florida. And we would train all weekend and I would drive home and I'd give him $40 every week. Just please keep training me. Please keep teaching me. And I hit a certain point and I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to learn here. I better figure this out. And I started using my PR skill to sort of like BS my way into bookings.
Mhm.
And my personality from music and just personality of just always being a crazy party starter, college, like my college friends are like, no one's surprised. You're wild. You've always been
Mhm.
wild. But now with this new path of like, all right, well, I'm not drinking and running every weekend and I'm not doing these drugs. What do I do? Well, falling on the ground and performing and being wild, I was like, whoa, it's everything I like about sort of theater and stand up. And there's the music and the showmanship and also just feeling pain and knowing I was real after that craziness was so important. And as I started just like trusting myself and getting into these environments and like when you come in when you're 16, 17 into wrestling or 18, you're a kid. You haven't had jobs. You haven't done
Yeah.
anything. But I'd like lived a life at 23. And so I'm walking into locker rooms. I'm like, that's poor business practice. That doesn't make sense. That seems like gaslighting. That's a problem. And the fans were loving me so much that even though backstage I'm like literally stirring up wherever I go, they can't get rid of me. And there sort of started to be this magic of like, he's going to do what he wants. He's going to go where he wants. And even in those small shows, like, I'm not even talking about now, like, oh, GCW big show, he does what he wants. Like, I've been doing whatever I want since 2014, 2015. I worked a church show one time and they told me to tone it down. They said, could you tone the gay down? I said, oh, definitely. And I went out there and just started running my mouth and saying crazy. They put the belt on me the next month because it was too over.
Mhm.
So learning to trust myself and learning like, hey, all these people are going to give you boundaries. And you've learned this along the line of like, the reason they give you boundaries most of the time is not necessarily so that you do better, but so that you don't do as good as them. And when cats start to wake up and realize they might have been given bad advice, they sort of start to turn to my team. And I'm like, I like to consider myself in the indie world like a weird secondary education of like, girl, I'm not going to TV. I'm not going to Fed. I'm not going to work for Cody. I'm not doing it. I have a different plot, a different path, and I see wrestling in a different direction. Having that second opinion of like, hey, this guy's saying the opposite of everything everyone else has been telling us. I'm not saying follow my path directly, but I'll show you my tax returns and we can talk. You know, it's that sort of like I have a confidence now that's been built because trusting myself has given me sort of every single thing I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why do you think it is then? So like I hear a version of this with like lots of successful people on the indies, whether they have had a stint at a bigger company or not. And then that offer inevitably comes around and then they sign.
Right.
So I get it too that like the hustle is hard.
Yeah.
Like there are like it's on you. No one's like handing you a paycheck. You got to go get that paycheck.
Right.
But there's also freedom in that, and there's all of the benefits that you just said. Do you feel like it's somebody they're just like, you know what, I want to not hustle for a minute, or is there the approval, or what makes all these people that like are already doing it as their own boss? I don't know if it's give in or decide to take this other path, that they've inevitably on the record somewhere trashed.
Right. And then signed right away.
Yeah.
So I always think of like, I think wrestlers work themselves by going, I only want to be a wrestler. I only want to wrestle. Well, darling, you're literally in the wrong business. Mm-hmm. You know, Vince said it himself. He's like, we're making movies. Yeah. And if that's the guy with the most money in wrestling, he's probably telling you the truth. And so these guys that come in, and I love bringing those real jiu-jitsu and MMA and karate backgrounds in, but for you to come in with that mentality of like, I'm supposed to be here for my fight, like you're McGregor and you're going to be done in 3 minutes, it's foolish because we are in the entertainment business. And because wrestling has always relied a little bit on the backstage narrative and it's always given into that, is it real or is it not? Because it helps us, like, a lot of these cats sort of got lost in the sauce. And instead of thinking about, I got to do well on the indies because it impresses fans who pay money and paid a full price ticket to see me, it's sort of, well, who from the Fed might see this footage and who might do this? And so while they're talking a big indie game, they're literally waiting for that phone call. Where I'm at now, and I'm very pointy about it, I often say I'm pointy, is I can't change any company, but I can make it more difficult for you to make that decision. And so by providing these like Twitch pass or providing new merchandising pass or providing new ways to connect with people and new ways to get back to fans and show your supporters, you know, you're looking out for them and you want the best for them, there are ways that we can be more than just the 10 minutes we're in the ring. And giving those fans more to come back to is going to expand what they want to give to us. And instead of saying, hey, I got to get that contract within a year, my knees are already hurting, why aren't we looking and going, hey, if we promoted in this town of 400,000 people, we actually probably could get 1,000 people in this room instead of 70 because we only told people on Twitter our show was happening. There's a backwards mentality right now where people go, I need the clout rub of a company to give me money. And they know that now. And so they're giving them less and less and less and less. And this is verifiable. Like, I talk to everyone. I know this fact. I don't want any heat here, but I do just want to push the positive of like, with the internet, with the distribution, with what I've been able to do, I am telling you there is no ceiling. And if you watch me and at least give me a little bit of trust, you don't have to do exactly what I do, but I want to at least show you these opportunities to where when they go, hey, you want your superstar contract, here you can come down, and it's, you know, 30, 40K for a year, and we're not going to pay for your apartment. And you're going, I'm achieving the dream. I have a contract. I am on the same name of the television show, but I'm making, you know, 400,000 less than what someone in 95 would have been paid, or 100,000 less than what someone in 2005 would have paid. We have these rose-colored glasses of, well, okay, now I'm here. I made it. I'm a TV superstar in wrestling. That's what you do, without going like, when was the last time you physically paid for or watched cable? Ask yourself that as a human. It doesn't happen anymore. No one acknowledges the shift yet, and wrestling likes when they figure out that something works because they go, that's the way it's done. And I go, well, yeah, it does work, but also like, how lazy to pick one way and think that's forever.